Hi everyone, welcome back to Atrium Research's YouTube channel. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Brodie Sutherland, the CEO of Tocvan Ventures, which trades under the symbol TOC. Just for a quick overview before I hand it over to Brodie, Tocvan is an exploration and development company with gold and silver assets in Sonora, Mexico. Tocvan is currently developing its flagship asset, the Pilar Gold Project, which the company has plans to quickly develop to produce gold in the near term. We currently have a buy rating and a target price of 90 cents per share on the company. Brodie, good to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ben. Appreciate the time.
Of course. And so you do have a good story to tell, so I'll leave it to you to go through the presentation that you have here, and then we'll get into some questions after that.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds great. So, Tocvan, we formed late 2018, looking to take advantage of what we felt at that time as a beaten up gold market. We were on the hunt looking for quality gold, silver assets globally. The management was able to identify one in a project called Pilar in Sonora, Mexico. And we went public in 2019, 10 million shares at 10 cents. And we've been able to build off of, successful drilling at Pilar over the last few years, advancing that project quickly with a bulk sample. And, now next steps, we're looking to establish a maiden resource estimate on a small portion of the property. We've now consolidated a sizable land position around it that looks extremely prospective and take advantage of the jurisdiction that we're in, where we can move things quickly towards production. And that's what differentiates our company, is that we're looking to get to production sooner than later, and being mindful of timeframes and what investors are looking for in the space, and taking advantage of the current price of gold. When we started this process, gold was $1,600 an ounce. We're now at $2,600, and I think these properties in Mexico really stand out as a value add for our shareholders.
Mm-hmm.
So just to run through some of the quick highlights, we've got two properties in Sonora, Mexico. That makes up 45 square kilometers of extremely prospective area. These are close to or adjacent to producing and past producing mines. So in essence, this is brownfields exploration in a lot of ways. Very accessible area, 2-hour drive from the capital city of Hermosillo in Sonora. That's a population just under 1 million people. This has everything that we need: drill contractors, personnel, certified labs. Everything that we utilize to advance a project is right there, a 2-hour drive away down the road. And that makes this extremely accessible, extremely low cost to operate. Our RC drilling is looking at all in $130 US per meter, approximately $170 US per meter, which is extremely low. It means we can do a lot of drilling to advance the project quickly. And again, being in a jurisdiction that you can advance things towards production on a quick timeline as well. These are de-risked assets. We're looking at surface deposits. These aren't buried hidden targets. They're right there on the surface. We can put our hands on them. That allows us to do the bulk sampling on them, allows us to do a pilot facility on them. Grand Pilar is now seen over 25,000 meters of drilling. A great target there. The metallurgy looks very amenable to any kind of scenario, but obviously the low cost open pit heap leach scenario is one that we're looking at right now. And it's taking those assets and moving them through that process to get them through development to production, again, as quickly as we can. A bit on the management team. So I'm a geologist by background. I've been working in mining for over 18 years now. Very fortunate to work internationally as a consultant. Spent a lot of years in remote locations, 2 years in the Amazon, quite a few years up in Greenland and Alaska. And when we came across these assets in Mexico, it was quite eye-opening for us in that this is a different type of jurisdiction. I think it's very similar to Nevada in a lot of ways, in that
Mhm.
not only does it have great mineral endowment with deposits that are in excess of 10 million ounces of gold, like La Herradura, owned by Fresnillo, but also extremely accessible. And the fact that you have people there that grew up with mining, understand it, know how to advance these projects. So that really stood out to me. And with that, it was key for us to build a team in Mexico and take advantage of that local expertise there. So that started with Rodrigo, geologist, 35 plus years experience, worked internationally for Rio Tinto, had a big hard rock lithium discovery in Serbia, came back to Sonora, built a team around him, and that team has been part of every bit of success we've had at Pilar, and now what we've consolidated into what we call Grand Pilar. We've also added Luis Manuel Arroyo Dominguez. He's a mine engineer with over 50 years of experience in Mexico. So obviously a big depth of knowledge there, taking projects like Grand Pilar from exploration to production. So a key piece as we move things forward. So for those that aren't familiar with Sonora, this is an incredible mining jurisdiction, and you just have to look at who's operating there to see that. Agnico Eagle has a presence there. Fresnillo, biggest silver producer in the world, is there. Alamos Gold, incredible asset called Mulatos. That's not too far away from us in Sonora. Silvercrest, which just got bought out by Core Mining. First Majestic, just incredible companies that have created immense value for their shareholders. And we're looking to be next in the mix there as we advance things forward. Again, very accessible area, local expertise, very low cost to operate and build here. And that's what we want to utilize to create value for the shareholders. And when we look at some of the comparables of companies around us and projects around us, mines around us, how do they stack up against what we know today about Grand Pilar? It's quite compelling in that if you look at Minera Alamos, the market cap, this is actually a little dated now. It's well over 150 million market cap. The grade of their Santana mine, which is 50 kilometers to the east of us, is 0.65 grams per ton gold. Modest deposit size, it's less than 200,000 ounces, with upside though to expand it, no doubt. And then decent recovery with heap leach and very low cost to operate it. So when you look at that, and then based on what we've seen so far through drilling and with a bulk sample that we completed in 2023, we're seeing a head grade of 1.9 grams per ton gold, 7 grams per ton silver, good recovery. We saw ways that we can improve that, which we're looking to further showcase with a pilot facility slated for 2025. And we think we've got tons of potential well beyond what's there now. But we're looking to start with a modest sized deposit that gets us a foothold, gets us to production, and then we can expand that with all the potential beyond it. And when we look at that and then look at Alamos Gold, it creates a very compelling case in that Alamos has assets in Canada and Mexico, but their Mulatos mine is a special one in that incredible grade, 2.7 grams per ton gold, great silver values with that, sizable deposit. And really it started with a modest sized deposit that was expanded and then satellite deposits discovered around it. And that's what we're looking to accomplish at Grand Pilar as well. And looking at their all-in sustaining costs for this year, for 2024, just over $1,000 an ounce, which again is incredible value in a market where gold's at 2,600.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at Sonora, we're just south of Arizona. Again, incredible infrastructure, well endowed. I mean, these markers in white with the pick are showing the open pit mining development. So that's not looking at the underground stuff that Silvercrest or Core and First Majestic have. This is just looking at the open pit stuff, and you can see that around us there's quite a few that have been in development or currently are in development. And This is just an incredible jurisdiction. It's still, ripe for exploration potential. A lot of these areas, and I'll show you at Grand Pilar, have been overlooked. And I think there's tons of potential to continue to expand off that and utilize the existing infrastructure to move things forward. But just an incredible jurisdiction for mining as we move everything forward here. So zooming in on Grand Pilar, this is a special asset in that initially we had interest in a 1 square kilometer area, and that had seen exploration done in the past on it. It was actually discovered by Lucas Lundin and a company called Santa Catalina in 1996. They had some incredible drill results, 16.5 meters of 53 grams per ton gold with equal silver credit, and several other holes, 10 meters, 10 grams. But it's the mid 90s, gold's only $300 an ounce. So they were really just focused on the high grade component, not even considering the low grade that we have adjacent to that high grade. So they ended up walking away from it. It went through this, period of time where it was more kind of prospectors that owned the property, trying to advance it, but the timing was always a little bit off. Kind of looking at the smaller picture, not looking at the bigger scale around it. And that's what we've been able to do over the last few years, is consolidate another 22 square kilometers around it that was previously overlooked. It really hasn't seen any systematic exploration. And what we were seeing over the last few years is that placer mine development. So these are local guys working up dry creek beds with equipment, moving quite a bit of dirt. We're having success in finding gold in areas that weren't shedding off our main zone, weren't shedding off our initial area of interest, coming from somewhere else. And that really opened up the door for us to start exploring around that main zone. And immediately we're able to show that, yes, there's more to the picture here. Everything basically to the east of our main zone is the same host rock. And what we're seeing is similar mineralization across that entire area. And we've just sampled, up to 2 kilometers to the east of that main zone so far, and less than a kilometer north. We today have 700 samples pending or through that area, which, if they're successful in defining mineralization beyond our main zone, would expand that footprint up to 5 times. So huge significance there in that this, what we've outlined so far with the initial drilling is just a small piece of what the overall. And important to note that another 1.5 kilometers east of where we've sampled so far and what's pending remains unsampled. And it looks like that's equally as prospective. So tons of potential on that side. As we look to the north, 5 kilometers north of our main zone, there's a huge alteration zone. It's a visual, you can see the volcanic rocks altered. We also have Aster satellite data that's been interpreted showing that we have the alteration mineralogy that would be tied to a hydrothermal system. And our first rounds of sampling, the first sample ever actually returned a 2-meter chip of 5 grams gold, over 100 grams silver. We went back, found an old mine working that returned 3 grams gold, over 1,200 grams per ton silver. I think this has the start of something significant in terms of outlining a big target. This is an area that's over 3 kilometers long. It's 1.5 kilometers wide. And it's got the intention of a major producer that's active in Sonora that spent 6 weeks out on site reviewing these areas. And we'll be sitting down with them later this month to see if there's potential for next steps as we move things forward. But tons of upside as we move through this. But again, focusing on getting towards production sooner than later. Just a bit of the history, I'll go through it quick. Again, Lucas Lundin was here in 96, some excellent holes. That was followed up with a period of about 20 years of drilling. Again, great drilling intercepts, 27 meters of 1.7. List goes on, just showing the potential there. When we came across it and started drilling in late 2020, our first round of drilling actually returned 95 meters of 1.6 grams per ton gold, all close to surface. That was a 25-meter step out from previous drilling, and we've just been able to build off that as we go. And this last year, we've actually, our last round of drilling had two significant holes that were outside of that main zone. And really the importance of that is those two holes were the best holes ever outside of the main zone and really show the upside potential. And it just needs continued focus to further outline that and expand on it. But we think there's tons of potential there as we move it forward. This is zooming in on our main zone, looking at a long section through the known mineralization there that outcrops right there at surface. We've hit it at depth, numerous hits throughout, and tons of potential to continue to expand that as well. But this is just one little focused area of the bigger hole, and just looking at what it looks like, again, showing that it outcrops at surface, tons of potential to find more at depth. And really what makes this significant is that we see parallel structures that are mineralized across the system. And as we step to the east, we're finding more and more of those parallel structures, and that's going to build out further resource potential as we go. And this image is just further highlighting that. This is looking at just the surface geochemistry, how it maps out, obviously showing this area in the main zone where all the historic work was done. That's clearly outlined, but there's all this potential further to the east that our next round of sampling, the 700 samples that we have pending, are going to further refine this and expand on it. But we think there's tons of potential to obviously grow things significantly as we move things forward. That's looking at gold. This is looking at the silver footprint, again, with the surface geochemistry. So tons of upside. I won't get too much into Picacho, but this is our other asset in Sonora. It's a bit earlier stage. We've done one drill program there in 2022. We did 1,000 meters, had a discovery, 3 significant holes in that. Again, right at surface. It's 18 kilometers away from the San Francisco mine, which is not producing today, but has produced over 1 million ounces over its life. There's another 2 million ounces in the ground there. Very well endowed area. This is part of the Caborca trend, which is host to big deposits like La Herradera, which I mentioned, over 10 million ounces contained there. And really, this is just on our back burner. We're slowly advancing it, but as things progress at Grand Pilar, we'll do more and more work here. We've got 7 kilometers of trend untested with the drill, and I think it's going to provide tons of upside for the shareholders. So in summary, incredible mining jurisdiction in Sonora, Mexico. I can attest to that. Local expertise, a development team that can push this forward. Great, production potential with low cost to get there, with a tight share structure. I think really incredible upside for our shareholders, but also importantly, tons of discovery potential as we move these forward. Tons of catalysts as we go through that. With drilling and resource definition, the pilot facility, and continuing to find more. I think tons of catalysts there as we advance forward over the next few months and year. And as I mentioned, we've been around for 4 years, 51 million shares out. That's taken a lot of discipline to do that, but it tells you where our mind's at in terms of creating value for the shareholders. And just a quick look at the timeline again. It's about resource definition, permitting for production, doing the pilot facility, continuing to explore and expand. That just reiterates that as we move forward. And then a quick snapshot on our cap structure. So we do have working capital to carry us for a bit. Then again, we're very mindful of how we deploy capital, and always looking for the best time to do that. We do have warrants, quite a few. Most of them are priced over $1. But we do have a few priced at 50 cents, which we're trading just below today. So potential in the future to see additional capital come in through the exercise of those. And with that, Ben, I'll quietly step back. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Brodie, and walking the viewers through that. I think it's certainly an exciting time for you guys, given the path that you're going on over the next year, 16 months and beyond. And ultimately the goal is to take advantage of where gold is now. And, it could be quite higher in a few years from now as well. So with that, just getting into a couple questions. I know you mentioned this in the presentation, Core acquiring Silvercrest. I thought it might be good for you to just provide a little bit more context into that acquisition and what it means for the silver mining space as a whole.
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, Mexico has been a major provider of silver to the world for a long time. A quarter of all the silver ever produced has come from Mexico. So that's an important part of its economy. I think over the last little bit, there's been in the media, I think a lot of negative headlines against mining in Mexico. And obviously we have a different standpoint there and quite optimistic in the future of mining and acquisitions like the one of Silvercrest that we saw last Friday, I think really tell us the true direction of where things are going. Obviously, Core wanting to sink their teeth in further in Mexico, an incredible asset there, is a huge positive for the industry. And we're looking at the space, and obviously we're focused on gold and silver. Most of our value today is in the gold that we have. There's potential for bigger silver, especially in our North Alteration Zone. But we're quite bullish on both the commodities. I think silver has a lot of catching up to do.
Mm-hmm.
The production hasn't been there to match the demand over the last few years. And I think there's a huge gap that can be filled on the silver side of things, which will just add more value for us as we move forward. But we love Sonora. We think it's an incredible jurisdiction that gets overlooked, but that's why we're there to take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And even though silver and gold could press higher, I think you guys would be quite pleased with where the prices are right now, and you'd be able to extract a lot of value down the line. Another financing I thought was interesting was Heliostar and Eric Sprott taking up that whole offering. Do you mind just touching on that a little bit?
Yeah, the importance there is that Heliostar has been a great performer again in Mexico. Their standpoint started by taking over old Argonaut gold assets, and recently that included the acquisition of some assets in Sonora, La Colorada, an open pit mine development that we actually drive past to get to our Grand Pilar site. And so see that kind of activity again happening in our backyard, but then to see an individual like Eric Sprott come in on a sizable placement and take the whole thing, I think again shows a positive direction on that sentiment in Mexico and where things are going. And again, we're happy to be right in the mix there as we move our projects forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that brings me to my last sort of question is, and it does revolve around the sentiment in mining in Mexico, is the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum. I know there were some concerns around open pit mining in Sonora, and more recently it seems like that concern has sort of abated a little bit. So do you mind providing a little context on that for the viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first, I do want to say that we were never worried. Everything that we heard and all the feedback we were getting from consultants, permitting consultants, and regulators is that we were expecting things to proceed as usual. However, the past president AMLO, he was very open at saying things publicly that were negative against mining, and that created a challenging environment for a lot of companies. And that was partly reflected in part of Claudia Scheinbaum's platform that she had publicly disclosed, which included a ban on open pit mining for new concessions. So that wouldn't include, companies like us that have existing concessions in Mexico, but anything new that was staked and granted, they were looking at restricting on whether that could be developed as an open pit. So again, that messaging kind of created this negative environment where what was really interesting is last week was the inauguration of Claudia Scheinbaum. Shortly after, there was an update on her platform, which no longer mentioned any ban on open pit mining on new or existing concessions. And I think that really triggered, a positive response in the market. We saw some of our bigger peers like Mineralamos and Discovery Silver, who are open pit developers, had big performing days on the market, up over 20% on big volume. And I think it's showing that shift of sentiment and positivity around mining in Mexico, which we're happy to be right in the mix of that as we advance these assets.
Yeah, of course. It's a great jurisdiction. It has been in the past, and it seems like it's going to be long into the future here. And hopefully, you can be a big piece of that as we move on. So, I don't have any more questions for you, Brodie. Did you have anything closing remarks you wanted to say to the viewers here?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, where our mindset is at, and that's again, it's taking advantage of this incredible jurisdiction that we can advance projects quickly towards production in at very low cost relative to others, and it's utilizing that to create as much shareholder value as we possibly can. And I think we've created a strong foundation to be able to do that, and now it's about executing as we move towards that production marker. But we're very fortunate that we've got tons of exploration upside. And I think as we showcase both of those elements, we're going to have some interesting years ahead of us here. So we just want to make sure that everyone understands where we're coming from in terms of alignment with our shareholders and really trying to make this a big success story for everyone.
Yeah, no, that's great. And again, it seems like there's going to be a bunch of catalysts coming throughout the fall here and into the new year. And we'll be writing research on that each day that it does come out. So Brodie, appreciate you coming on and walking us through that. Looking forward to seeing those press releases I just mentioned. And for our followers, if you haven't seen our research on Tocvan, you can find it on our website at atriumresearch.ca and subscribe for more updates as Brodie executes here. So thanks again for your time, Brodie.
Thank you, Ben.